Dude, check out the spaz. She's totally crazy. Sorry, I'm a little OCD. You're so retarded. Freak? He's a psycho. The majority of us will hear at least one of these phrases every day. It happens without thinking. They're just phrases. Except that they're not. Nothing has ever been just a phrase because the nature of language suggests that every phrase has meaning and purpose. Unfortunately, the purpose of these phrases have become to stigmatize and shame mental illness. The problem with using such phrases is that real people are dealing with these very real mental health problems every day, and when people who are use these phrases derogatorily, the stigma of mental illness only increases. This in turn makes people with mental illness feel shamed, and like it's something they need to hide. Backing up a little, what is mental illness exactly? Mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, ability to relate to others, and or daily functioning. And where does it come from? Attempts to treat mental illness were made as early as 5000 BCE. Mental illness at that time was thought to be the result of supernatural entities such as demonic possession or sorcery. It was widely believed that these evil spirits were God's punishment for humans who had committed sins. People of these ancient civilizations used exorcisms, prayer, bribery, and threats as a way to ward off these evil spirits. However, the most common cure was through a process called triphoning, in which a hole would be drilled through the person's head so the spirit could be released and the victim would be magically cured. Spirit figures. In modern times, while we don't chalk mental illness up to evil spirits and witchcraft, it is still a very taboo topic and the subject of heavy ridicule. But according to recent studies, approximately 26.2% of people worldwide suffer from some form of mental illness. If you don't personally know anyone suffering from mental illness, consider for a second that maybe you do, but they're keeping it to themselves. Or maybe they don't even know because no one has ever talked about mental health with them, so they don't even realize that mental illnesses are even like a thing. We have this weird thing in the world where we don't talk about the most important topics. But ultimately, we need to talk about these things. Parents need to talk to their children about mental illness and how to respect mental illness. Same goes for teachers and friends and coworkers and news reporters and just everyone. The Brain and Behavior Research Foundation is just one of many amazing mental health charities. I chose to support them this year because they're committed not only to raising awareness and acceptance, but also to raise money for grants for research into the field of mental illness. To recap, here are some things you can do. Number 1, donate to the Brain and Research Foundation and spread the word. Number 2, visit the Project for Awesome website and vote for this video to potentially give a portion of the donations to the Brain and Research Foundation. And 3, and most importantly, treat mental illness and those with mental illness with respect. Stop making mental illness as the punchline of your jokes and encourage people who need help and support to get that help and support. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to be awesome.